Ah, poppies. Poppies are native to the Middle East area from Turkey all the way over to Iran and to into northern India. This type, this called the Oriental lily, Poplar orientalis, or in some cases species if they're crossbred. Uh, they go summer dormant. They are just about every color except true blue. There's lavender, there's pink, there's red, there's white, there's uh, orange. There's a whole range of colors. They are very, very short to bloom. I once uh, wrote a description of a poppy. I said, "Well, this this plant will bloom for 2 or 3 days, unless, of course, it rains first, or the moles have already eaten the roots." Uh, I got to say, they are the good varieties which we used to grow are no longer available. At a point, I had 25 or so varieties with a whole range of bicolors and tricolors and doubles and so forth. All I see in the trade now is single white, single pink, and single red, all done by seeds.
And
And they're fine.
they're all Orientalis now
They're
then.
all basically Orientalis types. And it's an area, by the way, 50 years ago, everybody was looking to get poppies. I don't remember having had a request for a poppy in the last 10 years. It's one of those plants that's out of fashion. And it's still a beautiful plant. But again, it suffers from the fact that it, like peonies, very, very short blooms period.
Well, I think
But
we're going to have to put some poppies in because we don't have any poppies out there. We used to have poppies.
Yeah.
We had one poppy, one of the field poppies that we were very upset that we put in because we couldn't stop it anywhere. Whereas the Oriental poppies at least stayed in, the clump got bigger, but they didn't go all over the garden. I used to just cut them down as soon as they weren't blooming anymore. I just cut it off because the foliage comes up late in the summer and it seems like it gets enough going into the fall to
yeah,
still.
they're propagated like peonies. They're propagated in the fall, but unlike peonies, they're propagated by root cuttings. Pieces of the root, and then they have a fleshy root, like a 2 inch piece of fleshy root. Uh, Put it into a growing mixture, and it will root and come up and become a plant the next year. It's not a difficult thing to do. It also, I mean, these are the hybrid species that have unique individual colors. Of course, if you just want pink, red, or white, you can do that by seed. All right.
We're gonna look up some poppies, I think, this year. That's it.
Mm. Uh, Another native plant, native here, uh, Penstemon digitalis. Digitalis, of course, being foxglove. It is actually a cousin. They're in the same family. Uh, Foxgloves are not native here, but this particular Penstemon is. And I like the native ones with the purple foliage. The one on the left is nice because it has kind of a streak of purple and then a kind of a mixture on the outside. It's a very pretty foliage, which is pretty evergreen, by the way. In
Yeah.
the wild, the flower is almost always white, but there are various cultivars in the trade that have pink flowers, which is nice. Uh, you had one in your garden when we were there. Was it last summer or the summer before with a pink flower? What was the variety name on that? Do you recall?
I think that was the Dakota Verde.
Okay, we had one called. I think it was called Pocahontas. At any rate, but that's a good plant.
Get that
They're
one
good
Uh,
too.
names. We have dark towers and plum something, and I don't know. Steve keeps picking them up and bringing them home, and
If the name doesn't
fine.
sound familiar and it's dark, I might buy it.
I'm with you there, bro. I like those purple plants.
Yeah.
Uh, Uh, yeah. By the way, it's a native species, or I should say, family, all the way across the United States. Some of the forms that come from the western states are absolutely wonderful. Not all of them do as well here in the East as our native uh, digitalis, well, Penstemon digitalis, but there's some really beautiful colors, including good blues, good reds, good pinks. And I think there's even some yellows and oranges in there. I mean, it's a big family. There's a national society of Penstemon growers and lovers. Oh,
I was surprised in England when we were on a tour there, how many
they grow better in
penstemon,
England than here.
yeah, how many penstemon, right? And they're all North American
Yep.
species, and yet they're gaga over them in England. What chance do you think we're going to have to get some natural hybrids between Steve loves the Penstemon digitalis and the purple leaf forms, and I've planted several other species out there. What do you think? Are they going to cross?
I don't know. I think that it's another one of those. The flowers are not terribly large, but they're tube-shaped flowers, and the bees like it. And I would think you could probably get some natural crosses from seeding. It does sow itself to some extent, by the way.
Oh, it
Oh
sows
yeah.
itself all over the place. Karen Bovey and I were talking about that the native plants. She said, "My gosh, I have all these native seedlings. I have these ironweeds and rudbeckias and cup plants." And I said, "In Penstemon, it's native and it belongs. So if you put it in the right place, well, yeah, it's
Yeah.
going to spread itself around."
It's what it wants to do.
Looks like
It's
there's a question about peony before we leave it. Get
yeah.
to
Go ahead.
someone wants you to talk about the fern leaf peony. What can you say about that?
Oh, it's a tenuifolia. It's a lovely peony if you can find it. It's very short. It may be 12 to 15 inches. It's not a tall plant. The flower is somewhat smaller than the larger forms. It blooms earlier. It blooms. I mean, peonies here bloom the end of May into June. That one will bloom probably the first week of May. It'll be in bloom, and it's a very nice plant. There is a double form again if you can find it, but I used to grow it. I haven't seen it around, and I don't have any more. But
Okay,
that's a nice plant. But
it
it's
does
small. It's small.
it does go dormant, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's not a tree. It's a herbaceous form. It does go dormant. Yes.
All right. Oh, I seem to have lost control of it. There we go.
By the way, peonies can be divided. You don't have to grow them by tissue culture or whatever. You can divide them in the fall. I told you that. And it's very tricky. You have to very, very, very carefully work them apart. You cannot just break them apart. You can't cut them apart typically. You just have to kind of break them apart. Anyway, continue.